That Hausmann Construction has also filed a lawsuit against Introba, Goldberg Group Architects, Baker Group, Woodbury County, and the Woodbury County Law Enforcement Center Authority. In that lawsuit, which was filed in July by Hausmann Construction, the company claims that as a result of the multiple delays to the LEC's construction, the LEC Authority has failed to pay Hausmann for the work it's performed. Hausmann is seeking $5.7 million from the LEC Authority for the work performed on the project and costs, attorney's fees, and expenses incurred while trying to resolve this issue. They allege that the LEC Authority claims Hausmann's delay of the project forecloses the authority's duty to pay Hausmann for the work. Hausmann's lawsuit claims, quote, throughout the life of the project, a multitude of issues have plagued the construction and completion of the LEC, stemming from certain design errors and omissions as put forth by Goldberg Group as the lead architect for the project, end quote. Hausmann claims it has received the brunt of many accusations for the overall delay and said the LEC Authority's demand letter was, quote, based on untrue and unsubstantiated allegations. Hausmann's lawsuit also claims the LEC Authority's release of the demand letter to the media has impacted their ongoing and future projects. Hausmann also alleges that it continues to incur significant costs and expenses as a result of Baker Group, Introba, Goldberg, and the county and LEC Authorities' quote, collusive actions. The lawsuit details those alleged collusive actions. Hausmann sues saying that the Baker Group is the holder of the patent used by Polyjail, which is the only subcontractor that bid for the fabrication and installation of jail cells for the LEC. The suit also says that Shane Albrecht with Baker Group is listed as one of the inventors on that patent as well. Hausmann's lawsuit lists Polyjail as a Goldberg-affiliated subcontractor. Also included in the lawsuit, Baker Group's employment of the son of a member of the LEC Authority to oversee and manage the construction of the LEC. The suit also mentioning the LEC Authority and Baker Group do share a legal counsel. Hausmann's lawsuit also says, quote, given the cozy relationship between the authority, GGA, Introba, and Baker Group, it's been easiest for the authority to blame Hausmann for delays and refuse to pay Hausmann for the completion of the project and its construction of the LEC so as to not impact, interfere with, or jeopardize the ongoing relationships that defendants have enjoyed, end quote.